Do you sometimes see a new word and think, how do I pronounce that? Or you have a go at pronouncing the word to later find out, possibly even years later, that you've been completely mispronouncing the word the whole time. In this British English pronunciation lesson, you'll learn 5 essential pronunciation rules that will help you read English words for the first time with the correct pronunciation. Are you ready? Let's go! When a word containing just one syllable follows the structure consonant sound, vowel sound, consonant sound, then the vowel sound in the middle usually becomes a very short sound. For example, mat, pet, kit, cod, cut. Now this is where the magic E comes in. When you add the E to the end of words, we don't pronounce the E. The E is usually silent at the end of English words. I guess that's a bonus pronunciation rule for you. However, what does happen is the vowel sound in the middle of these words changes so that it becomes the same pronunciation of how we say it in the alphabet. For example, A, E, I, O, U. So mat becomes mate, pet becomes Pete, which is a man's name, kit becomes kite, cod becomes code, and cut becomes cute. Pronunciation rule number 2, how to pronounce ED endings. Have you ever seen words like these and wondered, is it walked or walked? Stop, stopped, played, played. Well, I'm going to teach you 3 very simple rules so you always know how to pronounce the ED endings in English. So firstly, if your word ends in TED or DED, you pronounce it with the extra syllable id. Be careful that you're not saying ed. So we're not saying wanted, needed. It's not an e, it's a miserable I sound. Wanted, needed. So take a look at this sound. How would you pronounce it? Waited. Correct. Number 2, if your word contains a voiceless sound before the ED ending, for example, like p, t, k, s, sh, so there's no vibration here when you do these sounds, then the ED becomes a t sound. So here we have stopped. How about this one? Watched. So not watched, we're not going to add the extra id because it doesn't end in TED or DED. It ends with a voiceless sound before the ED. Watched, voiceless, watched, watched. And lastly, rule number 3 is very similar to rule number 2, but this time is if we have a voiced sound before the ED. For example, call, there's vibration, called, called. So the ED doesn't become id, called becomes a d sound. Here's another example, played, played. And this one, how would you pronounce this one? Loved, loved. Now keep in mind that there are a few exceptions to this rule, but you could literally count them on your hands and toes. There are really so few exceptions to this rule. Let me go through a few common ones for you. Wicked, as in an evil person, a wicked witch. Naked, as in having no clothes. Naked. Crooked, as in something that's not straight. The picture is crooked. Learned. Now you may be thinking, hold on Emma, I know this one. This is a trick. This is learned. That depends. If you're talking about the verb, learned. He learned something new. However, if you're using this as an adjective to talk about someone who is wise and very knowledgeable, then learned. He's a learned man. Keep in mind that in British English as well, we tend to change this to learnt. We change the spelling and the pronunciation, so the pronunciation actually becomes irregular, but it fits the spelling. Learned, learned, learnt. A similar example to this is the word blessed, with 2 syllables. When it's an adjective, blessed. When it's a verb, blessed. The priest blessed the people, or the blessed child. Now it's an adjective. So we change the pronunciation. Now, of course, there are more exceptions, but these ones are the ones that you're most likely to come across. Rule number 3, how to pronounce the final S in English words. How do you pronounce this word? Cats. And this word? Dogs, with vibration. Dogs. And this word? Churches. Churches. Now we're adding an extra syllable. But why? What's the rule? Well, there are 3 very simple rules that you can follow. Let's start with the S ending, as in cats. When the sound before the S is a voiceless sound, so no vibration, we pronounce the final S as a S. For example, cats, hats, books, cliffs. For the second rule, when a word contains a voiced sound, so remember that's with vibration here, before the S, we pronounce that final S as a Z sound. For example, dog, g has voice, it has vibration. Dogs, dogs. Here are some more examples. Beds, gloves, pens. So make sure you're getting that vibration, not pence, pens. Practice your vibration here. Now, rule number 3, when we add the extra syllable is when we have a sound like s, z, sh, sh, before that S, usually an ES. So church, ch, 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 ends with one of those sounds, ch, ch. So we add churches, churches. Here are some more examples for you. Buses, watches, wishes, judges. And take note that the ending is not es. So we're not saying buses, judges, is. Buses, judges. It's with this miserable I sound. Pronunciation rule number 4. Which letters in English are silent and why? Silent letters are a pain. Whether you're a native speaker or a non-native speaker, it doesn't matter. No one is free from the pain of silent letters in English. But let's look at 5 silent letters and the rules for when they are silent. Starting with the letter K. If you see K and N at the beginning of a word, the K is silent. So the word knock is not pronounced as knock, but knock, knock. No, knee, knowledge. Now let's look at the silent W. When W and R are written at the start of a word, the W is silent. For example, right, wrist, wrong. Next is silent L. When you have the combination of A and L together, the L is usually silent. For example, calm, half, talk, walk. And lastly, silent H. When the H is at the beginning of a word, usually of French origin, we can remove the H. For example, honest, hour, honor, air. Of course, there are many more silent letters and many more rules for you to learn. So, if you'd like to learn more about silent letters in English, I have a full free playlist waiting for you to check out. I will leave it down below in the description for you. Now for your final rule, rule number 5, how to pronounce the R and when is it silent. You may have noticed that some English speakers pronounce the R in words while others don't. And why is that? Put simply, it depends on their accent and where they're from. So accents with more of a rhotic accent, for example, American English speakers, they will pronounce the R in certain words. For example, car. While accents which are non-rhotic, for example, many accents from the UK, England in particular, they don't pronounce the R. So, car is pronounced without the R. And the rules for non-rhotic accents are very simple. Whenever you have a vowel and an R together, the vowel is usually made longer and the R is removed. So we don't say ka, we say car. This also happens at the end of words, especially if you have endings like AR, RE, ER, OR, and so on. these endings just become they become a schwa. So for example, a word like this one in the UK with a non-rhotic accent speaker will be doctor, doctor, while in the US, where they use more rhotic accents, it will be doctor, doct. Should change that vowel there, doctor. So you have a different vowel as well, but doctor, doctor. So notice the R at the end is pronounced more in American English than in British English, though this does depend on the accent, of course. There are hundreds of accents. So listen carefully and repeat. I'm going to say these three words with a non-rhotic accent and with a rhotic accent. So to simplify that, with more of a British accent and with more of an American accent. Far, card, brother, far, card, brother. Here are some more examples. Notice here we have the vowel, the R, and then we have a consonant at the end. So we have bird, bird, hard, hard, horse, horse. In more American English accents, they would be bird, hard, and horse. Now, if we have an R in between two vowels, we still pronounce it because we need to separate the two vowel sounds. For example, arrow, arrow, around, around. There is only one exception to this rule. So, if you have a vowel, an R, and a vowel, usually you pronounce the R. But as I said, there's an exception. Any idea what it is? It's the word iron. Iron. In the UK, we usually say iron, so the R is silent. In the US, it's pronounced more as iron, iron. So there we have it. You have 5 essential English pronunciation rules to help you know how to pronounce English words the first time you read them. If you're interested in getting started with English pronunciation, then why not download my free English pronunciation pack, which includes everything you need to get started to help you improve your English pronunciation and listening skills. To download your free English pronunciation pack, just scan this QR code here, or you can click the link down below in the description. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've learned something new. Please give this video a like if you have learned something new, and comment below with your favorite animal. My favorite animals are dogs. In particular, one special dog. I will leave a little picture here. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much, and bye. Remember to subscribe as well.